When our mother died, my sister Meredith became executor. She presented a simple will, leaving the family estate to be sold and split. I trusted her. A year later, a forgotten tin in the attic revealed the truth. A later will, leaving the estate to me, along with a letter accusing Meredith of financial abuse. Meredith had destroyed my credit, my reputation, and stolen my future. I had no money for a lawyer, no proof she wouldn't shred. So I didn't fight her in court. I fought her in life. I turned her own greed into the engine of her ruin. Hello. Welcome to Hurt Stories. My mother's house smelled like lavender, old books, and the faint, ever-present scent of the lemon polish she used on the oak banister. It was a world of quiet order, of pressed linens and tea at 4. It was also the only place I ever felt truly safe. My sister Meredith, 2 years older, always saw it differently. To her, the house was a relic. The antique furniture was dusty, the sprawling garden a burden. She lived in a sleek, modern condo downtown and spoke of asset liquidity and market peaks. I lived a quiet life as a book restorer, my world small but meaningful. Our mother was the bridge between our two planets. Her death was a quiet end to a long illness. I was unmoored. Meredith was efficient. She took charge, her organizational skills a cold comfort. At the lawyer's office, she presented our mother's will. It was straightforward. The estate, the house and its contents were to be sold. The proceeds after debts were to be split evenly between us. The lawyer, a man named Mr. Dodson who seemed to know Meredith well, guided me through the signature pages. I signed through a haze of grief, grateful someone was handling the unbearable logistics. Meredith moved quickly. She hired a liquidator. Our mother's beloved china, her collection of first-edition poetry, her jewelry, all boxed and tagged for auction. I was allowed to take a few sentimental items, a photo album, my grandmother's quilt. The house was stripped, a skeleton waiting to be sold. I couldn't bear to be there, but on the day before the realtors were to descend, I went for one last goodbye. I climbed to the attic, a place I'd hidden as a child. Amidst the insulation and old Christmas decorations, my hand brushed against a cold, familiar metal. It was an old biscuit tin, painted with Scottish thistles. Our mother kept old receipts in it. On a whim, I pried off the rusted lid. There were no receipts. There was a thick, legal-sized envelope. Inside, a document titled Last Will and Testament of a Leaner Violet Shaw, dated 3 months after the will we had executed. And beneath it, a letter in my mother's shaky, final handwriting. My legs gave out. I sat on the dusty floorboards, the cold seeping through my jeans, and read. The new will was explicit. It revoked all prior wills. It left the entire estate, house, and all its contents to me, Clara. The reasoning was stated plainly. For my daughter Clara, whose heart has always been in this home, and who has cared for me with selfless love. It named an alternate executor, a lawyer in the next town over. But it was the letter that stopped my breath. My dearest Clara, if you are reading this, Meredith has done what I feared. The will Mr. Dodson has is a fake. I discovered months ago that Meredith, with Mr. Dodson's help, had been slowly draining my investment accounts, forging my signature on transfers. When I confronted her, she told me I was confused, that the illness was affecting my mind. She threatened to have me declared incompetent if I tried to change my will. She said no one would believe me over her and her lawyer. I am so tired, my love, so I pretended to acquiesce. I let her think she had won. But I found this lawyer, Mr. Yates, through a dear friend. He helped me in secret. I've hidden this here in our old secret place. I am so sorry for the burden this places on you. Do not trust Meredith. She is not the sister you knew. She sold her soul for money long ago. Be smart. Be safe. All my love forever, Mother. The world shattered and reassembled in an instant. Every kindness Meredith had shown during the illness, handling the bills, managing the nurses, wasn't kindness. It was consolidation of control. Every time she'd patted my hand and said, "Don't you worry about any of this, Clara. I'll take care of everything." It wasn't protection. It was theft. She hadn't just stolen my inheritance. She had manipulated our dying mother, isolated her, terrorized her. And she had made me a willing accomplice in my own dispossession. I took photos of everything with my phone. I carefully placed the tin back exactly as I found it. I drove home in a state of electric calm. The grief was now secondary. A towering, silent rage took its place. I went to see Mr. Yates, the lawyer named in the new will. He was a kind, elderly man in a cluttered office. He confirmed it. He had prepared the will. My mother had been lucid and determined. He had tried to contact us after her death, but his letters to the house had gone unanswered, and he had no other address. Meredith had clearly intercepted them. "We can contest the probate," he said. "This is fraud, this is criminal, we'll get your house back." I looked at his gentle face, at the stacks of paper. I thought of Meredith's resources, her partnership with the corrupt Mr. Dodson, her ruthlessness. A court battle would be long, expensive, and public. It would drain what little spirit I had left. She would fight dirty. She would, as my mother warned, paint me as confused, greedy, unstable. Even if I won, I'd be left with a hollow victory and a house stained by betrayal. "No," I heard myself say. "I don't want to contest it." Mr. Yates was stunned. "But my dear, it's yours. She stole it." "She wants the money," I said, my voice strangely steady. "Not the house. She always hated the house. She'll sell it as soon as the probate period ends. Let her." I saw the plan then, not as a revenge, but as a reclamation. Karma would not be a passive waiting game. I would be its architect. I asked Mr. Yates one question. "As the executor of the true will, could you have communicated with the current title holder about specific, sensitive contents of the estate before transfer?" He frowned. "Well, theoretically, if there were hazardous materials or legal encumbrances a buyer should know about, yes. There's a duty to disclose." I smiled for the first time in months. Perfect. Meredith sold the house 6 weeks later. It went for a handsome sum to a young, ambitious tech couple. The sale closed. She got her money. She bought a flashy new car. She posted about her well-deserved windfall on social media. This was when my work began. I did not seek legal revenge. I sought poetic justice. First, I used my small savings to hire a discreet and slightly morally flexible private investigator. I needed to know everything about the buyers of our mother's house. Their names were Alex and Sam. They were both software engineers. They loved mid-century modern design. They were active in local historical preservation forums. They had a dog. And crucially, they had overextended themselves to buy the house, using a significant inheritance from Sam's grandmother for the down payment. They were house-proud and financially anxious. Next, I began to visit the local historical society archives. I spent weeks there, combing through maps, deed records, and old council meeting notes. And I found it. In 1952, a small corner of our mother's property, including part of the beloved rose garden, had been officially designated as a protected wetlands buffer after a dispute with a developer. The designation was never removed from the town ledger, but it had been omitted from the modern property surveys, a clerical error that had persisted for decades. The protected zone rendered that portion of the land unbuildable. Any attempt to modify it would trigger a lengthy, expensive environmental review with the state. I also visited the county clerk. I pulled the original building permits. The attic, which had been finished into a bedroom in the 1970s, never had its final inspection signed off. The permit was still open. A current homeowner discovering this would be forced to bring the entire space up to modern code, a cost of tens of thousands. I compiled a beautiful, professional-looking packet. It included the archived wetland map, highlighted, copies of the open permit. It was not an accusation. It was presented as a concerned courtesy from a representative of the estate of the prior owner, who had discovered these historical discrepancies in old family papers and felt a moral obligation to inform the new owners. I had Mr. Yates send it on his firm's letterhead to make it official. The reaction was nuclear. Alex and Sam were furious. They had bought a house with a hidden, massive liability. Their dream home was now a financial trap. They sued the seller for non-disclosure. The seller was Meredith. Meredith was served. Her first move was to try to blame the title company, the inspectors, everyone. But the packet was too precise, too undeniable. The lawsuit dragged her into a legal quagmire. Her windfall was now frozen, needed for legal defense. The shiny new car was repossessed when she missed payments. The stress was public, humiliating, and expensive. But that was only phase one. I knew Meredith's greatest weakness, her need for social validation. Her life was a performance of success, so I quietly undermined the stage. I created an anonymous, meticulously factual blog, not a rant, a timeline. The Shaw estate, a timeline of questions. I posted scanned documents, the fake Will's signature page next to my mother's real signature from her driver's license. I posted the ledger page showing the wetland note. I never accused. I just asked questions. Why was this later will never presented? Why did the executor's lawyer have so many financial links to the beneficiary? I shared it in local community groups, historical forums, alumni pages. The gossip began, quietly at first, then louder. People remembered Meredith's swift sale, her new car. They connected dots. Her social currency, her reputation as a capable, successful woman began to devalue. Invitations dried up. Her own friends looked at her with a new, wary curiosity. The final move was the most personal. I knew Meredith had a secret, one not even her greed could overcome. She had a daughter, my niece Chloe, a sweet, artistic 16-year-old who was the one pure thing in Meredith's life. Meredith was desperate for Chloe to get into an Ivy League school. She had bragged for years about crafting the perfect application. Chloe, feeling isolated by her mother's escalating drama, started reaching out to me. We'd always been close. I became her sanctuary. She confessed she hated the pressure, that she wanted to go to art school, not Harvard. I listened. I supported her. And I gently, over time, helped her find her voice. I connected her with a counselor who specialized in artistic portfolio development. When the time came, Chloe applied to, and was accepted into, a prestigious art institute in Chicago. She used her own savings from a summer job for the application fee. She told Meredith after the acceptance. Meredith was apoplectic. This was not part of her performance. Her daughter, her ticket to bragging rights, was choosing a path Meredith saw as worthless. In a furious fight, Chloe revealed that she knew about the lawsuit, about the blog, that her friends' parents were talking. She called her mother a thief. She said she wanted to live with her father for her final year of high school. The one relationship Meredith hadn't commodified, the one she genuinely loved, was fractured, and it was her own actions that caused it. I did not gloat. I did not send a triumphant text. I simply lived. I used my skills as a restorer, not just on books, but on my own life. My business grew through genuine reputation. I bought a small, bright cottage with a garden. It was entirely mine, earned by my own hands. Last week I saw Meredith. It was at the grocery store. She looked aged, thin, harried. She was arguing with the manager about a coupon. Our eyes met across the produce aisle. In hers, I saw a frantic, exhausted defeat. The karma she had set in motion by betraying our mother, by stealing from me, had not come from a mystical force. It had come from the logical consequences of her own choices, consequences I had merely helped to illuminate. I had taken the seeds of her greed, her need for money, her need for status, her need for control, and I had watered them until they grew into poisonous vines that choked her own life. She ruined my life for an inheritance, but in doing so, she freed me from any illusion of sisterhood. She taught me that the most powerful revenge is not taking back what was stolen, but building something new and unassailable from the ashes. Karma didn't choose me passively. I chose to become its agent. And in that choice, I found a peace and a power far more valuable than any house, any amount of money. I found myself. And I discovered that a clear conscience in a small cottage is a richer estate than a stolen mansion with a guilty soul. She has the money, for now, but I have everything else. And in the end, the balance sheet of a life does not add up in dollars, but in peace. And my ledger is finally, abundantly in the black. Thanks for listening. If you want to hear more story like this, please like the video and subscribe the channel. Hit the bell icon to get notified.